All right, good day, everyone. Welcome again to today's class with Mr. Francis. And today we're looking at a very interesting topic, which is titled Active and Passive Voices. Active and Passive Voices. Some of us we've done this before, and some of us we have issues of changing from active to passive voices. But in this lesson, we're going to see the tricks. And by the time you're through this lesson, you find it very easy to change from active to passive voices. Now, active voices, the subject here performs the action. So, one way to know active voices is that the subject performs the action. We are always concerned about the subject. So, it is direct and it's always clear. So, we always focus on the subject when it comes to active voice. While in passive voice, the subject receives the action and the focus shifts to the object or what is being acted upon. So, in a nutshell, active voice focuses on the subject, while passive voice focuses on the object. All right. Now, let's look at some various examples we have here. Look at active voice. The chef bakes the cake. The chef bakes the cake. If you look at the structure here, the chef is the subject, bakes is a verb, and the cake is the object. So we have the subject, the verb, and the object. In passive voice, look at how it is written. The cake is baked by the chef. The cake is baked by the chef. If you look at this here, the cake, which is the object, has come to start the sentence. We see here a verb, and the chef, which was the subject, has become the object. All right. So we have it twisted all around. So we twist it all around. So we have the cake is baked by the chef. So active voice focuses on the subject, passive voice focuses on the what? On the object. Let's move on to the next slide and let's look at some rules we can deploy when changing from active voice to passive voice. Now the first rule is called the rule of X. What the rule of X says? It says that the subject becomes the object and the object becomes the subject, which means the subject in the active voice, when you are changing it to passive voice, that subject will take the position of the object in passive voice. Let's look at an example. The chef prepares the meal. The chef prepares the meal. The chef is the subject, the meal is the object. Now, when changes to passive voice using the X rule, there's going to be a flip. Now, if you look at this, the passive voice says the meal is prepared by the chef. The meal is prepared by the chef. So here is now our new subject, and the chef has now become our object. So if you cross this, the meal has become the subject, and if you cross this that way, the chef has become the object. So that we call it what? The X rule. The X rule. So the meal has become the subject and the chef has become the object. This is the X rule. Let's look at example 2. The mechanic fixed the car. Active. Active voice says the mechanic fixed the car, while the passive voice says the car was fixed by the mechanic. So if you look at the first sentence, active voice, the mechanic is the subject, the car is the object. Mechanic is the subject, the car is the object. Now, when you change to passive voice, there will be a flip. The car becomes the subject, mechanics becomes the object. That's why we call it the X rule. The mechanic becomes the subject, The car becomes the mechanic become the object, the car becomes the what? Subject in passive voice. So just like twisting it round, that is all about the X rule. The subject goes to the object in the passive, and the object goes to the subject in the passive. This is how to change from passive voice to active voice using the X rule for subject and object. The next rule we look at is the pronoun rule. Now, pronoun are words that are used in place of a noun. So, in the active voice, if the subject is I, in the passive voice, it will change to me. In the active voice, if the subject is we, in passive voice, it will change to us. In the active voice, if the subject is you, in the passive voice, it remains as you. In the active voice, if the subject is he, in passive voice, it will change to him. In the active voice, if the subject is she, in the passive voice, it will change to her. Active voice, if the subject is they, when changed to passive voice, it will become them. For active, if the subject is it, it remains as it. And the last and not the least, if the subject is who, in the passive voice, it will change to whom. So all these ones that we just underline here, they are the passive voice, and they will take the post of the object. They become the object in the passive voice after using your X rule. Let's move on to the next slide and see some examples. Now, third rule we have here, before we go to some examples, is the change of verb tenses. And we've talked about the verb tenses, the present, the past, present, and the what? The future. The past, the present, and the future. Those are the three major tenses that we have. Then we have the various degree of verbs that we have. We have the present, we have the past, then we have the past participle. For example, let's use the word go. Go. What is the past tense of go? Went. What is the past participle of went, of go? Is gone. All right. So go, went, gone. Go is the verb, is the tense. The past tense of go is what? Went. And the past participle is what? Gone. Now, take note. We always use the past participle of every verb in the passive voice. No matter what kind of verb is given in the active voice, when changing this, we always use the past participle of that verb in the active voice. We use the past participle in the passive voice. Let's look at some examples to understand what we're seeing right here. Let's start with the first tense that we have here, the present tense. Now, present tense, I've taught you tenses in verb. Now, let's start with the simple present. Simple present tense. Let's look at the structure of a simple present tense. In the active form, we have the subject plus the verb plus the object. That is for the active voice. Now, when we are changing this to passive voice, don't forget that we talk about the X rule. Your subject will begin the sentence. Then these ones that are here, we call them auxiliary verb, or we call them helping verb. We call them helping verb. And the verb that you have right here, you look for the past participle of that verb right here. So our verb will change to the what? Past participle in our passive voice. Then we add by subject to the sentence. We add by subject to the sentence. Now, when it comes to this auxiliary verb, if the object you're talking about is singular, if it's one, we use is or am. But if the object we're talking about here is more than one, we use what? Are. So are is plural verb, is and am is a singular verb. Now they all depend on the object we are talking about here. Let's look at some example. Active voice. She writes a letter. She writes a letter. First, let's use our X rule. If you remember our X rule, she is the subject, letter, a letter is the object. So a letter becomes the subject if you cross it, and she becomes a. This is a. Please take note of that. This is a. She becomes a. As we said in the pronoun rule, she becomes a. Now, writes. This writes is a present tense form, isn't it? Now, the present participle of write is what? Written. If you take the verb write, wrote, written, it's the written that we're taking, which is the third form of the verb. So written, we take written, but we need to add an auxiliary verb to it. Don't forget that in this particular part here, we say that we have the object, we have auxiliary verb, and we have the past participle. So the object is a letter. Now, which of these should we take? Is, am, or are? Now, for us to know which we're going to take, which we're going to pick, is for a singular object. Am is for a singular object. Are is for plural objects. Now look at this letter very well here. A letter. A letter means just one letter. So we'll pick what? Is. We'll pick is. Then we'll take the past participle of write, which is written. So at the end of the day, we'll have a letter. Alright, a letter. A letter is written by a. Sorry, this is a. A letter is written by a. Let's look at example 2. They play the ball. They play the ball. They play the ball. How can we change this to passive voice? To change the passive voice, take note, they is the subject right here. The ball is the object. So you would use your X rule. The ball becomes the subject. And if you use your pronoun rule, they will become them. They will become them. If you check that table, they becomes them. They play the ball. Now the ball has taken the post of a subject, them has taken the post of an object. Now, play. What is the past participle of play? Now let's go through our three forms of verb. We have play, past tense is played, past participle is what? Played. Alright, so the past tense and past participle is what? Played. The same thing. So we put played. Played. Which verb are we taking now? So we need to add our what? Auxiliary verb. Are we taking is, am, or are? Now take note, if the object is just a singular, we will take is or we take am. But if the object is more than one, we take what? Are. The ball is just a single ball, so we pick what? Is. So right, the ball is played by them. You always add by to your subject, to your object at the end of the day. In your passive, every passive always add by to the what? To the object, the place that is occupying the object, you add by to it. So we have the ball is played by them. Very easy. So the ball becomes the subject, they change to them, you put by them, then the play, look for the past participle of play, which is played, then you add your auxiliary verb. What is your auxiliary verb here? Auxiliary verb is just depending on the kind of object you have, the ball. So the ball is just one, so we use is. So we have the play, the ball. I believe this is understood. Let's look at the next one we have here. Present continuous tense. Now, this is an action that is done, that is ongoing in the present. As you can see, SpongeBob hugging Gregory, which is the snake, hugging is snail. So let's look at the structure of a present continuous tense in the active form. Now, for the present continuous tense, we have the subject, and the verb, auxiliary verb we have is, am, are. That is for the active voice. Then the verb, take notes, present continuous verb always have ing. We have verb ing, then we have the what? The object. We have the subject, we have the auxiliary verb, we have the verb that has ing. Verb with ing means, for example, if I say go, what is the present continuous tense of go? It's going. If I say come, what is the present continuous tense of come? It's coming. Just add ing. Eat, eating. Sleep, sleeping. So those are present continuous tense. So for the active voice, it's made up of subject, auxiliary verb, a verb with ing plus the object. Now, if you want to change this now to passive voice, what do we do? Don't forget your X rule. The object comes first, followed by your auxiliary verb. Then we had this verb here, being, being, being. You must add being, being. Then don't forget, like I said earlier, you look for the past participle of that verb that is given in your active voice. Then we had plus by subject. Let's look at an example. He is playing the ball. He is playing the ball. This is the present continuous tense. He's doing it right there and he's still doing it. He's playing the ball. Now, first of all, your first rule is your X rule. He is the subject. The ball is the object. To change to passive voice, your object becomes the subject. Your ball, this is your ball. Your ball becomes the subject. Next is what auxiliary verb are we going to add? If you come down to this place, what auxiliary verb are we going to have here? What auxiliary verb? We have taken the ball as our subject. Now, what kind of auxiliary verb do we have? Is it is, am, or are? Now look at the ball. The ball is just one ball. So I told you if it's just a ball, we use what? Is. Is. So pick is. Then the passive said whatever auxiliary verb you pick, you must put it together with what? With being. So become the ball is being. Is being. Now look at the verb here. Playing. What is the past participle of play? Play, played, played. So look for the past participle of the main verb, which is play. This verb that I will have, this playing is just a continuous verb, but the original verb is what? Play, isn't it? What is the past participle of play? It's played. So he puts played. All right. Now your E, don't forget, it becomes him. If you remember your pronoun rule, your E becomes him. So you always put by before the object. By before the object. So it becomes this ball is being played by him. The ball is being played by him. So this is your object. Your auxiliary verb is plus your being plus your past participle played. Then you put by him. So we've already changed this into passive voice. Let's look at number 2. They are building a house. They are building a house. They are building a house. Let's change this now to passive voice. They are building a house. They are building a house. Step 1, your X rule. They are building a house. They is the subject, a house is the object. So first of all, your passive voice becomes, your object becomes the subject, a house. Now, what kind of auxiliary verb should we take from here? A house is just one, so pick what? If you say is, you are absolutely correct. Is. The next rule says you should add your being. You put your being. Now, building. The original tense of building is build, isn't it? Past tense of build is built, and the past participle of built is built. So present tense is build, past tense built, past participle is the same thing as what? Built. So take the past participle form of build, which is built. Then we had your by. Then don't forget that in your pronoun, they becomes what? Them. They becomes them. So in a nutshell, we're going to have this as a house is built by them. So your they becomes them. Make sure you always put by before you put your objects by them. Let's look at the third example. I am ironing my clothes. I am ironing my uniform. Sorry. I am ironing my uniform. Now let's look at this carefully. I is the subject. My uniform is the object because your uniform is the one receiving the action. To change the passive voice, first step number one, use your X rule. My uniform becomes the subject. You see it has come right here. All right. My uniform becomes the object. Let's go back up and see what we have right here. Now we've gotten our object, isn't it? We've gotten our object. So what are we picking? Is it is, am, or are? To know whether it is, am, or are, check your objects. How many objects do you have there? My uniform. Uniform, there's no S in uniform, it just means one uniform. So we'll pick is. So put our is here. Is our is. Then plus being. So we should put being. Is our being. Then what is the past participle of iron? Ironing is a present continuous tense, but the main verb there is iron. Iron is a verb. The past tense of iron is ironed. And the past participle of ironed is ironed. The same thing again. So put the past participle of ironed. Then this I will change to what? Me. In our pronoun rule. I becomes what? Me. So we had by me. So we're going to have this as. My uniform is ironed by me. Very easy. Just follow the rules and you get your answer straight. Let's move on to the next one. Present perfect tense. Now, a present perfect tense is an action that has been done already but is reported in the present. Let's look at the active structure for this. For the active structure for this, it's made up of the subject plus has and have. Now, has is used for a singular subject, have is used for plural objects. Has is used for singular objects, have is used for plural objects. Then you also have put your past participle of the verb. Like I told you, for the active voice, we are using a past participle right now. Then plus the words objects. So the active form of every present perfect form tense is the subject plus have/have plus past participle plus the object. Now, if you want to change this now to the passive voice, what do we do about this? In the passive voice, take notes. We have the objects will now come up. Your has and have remain the same. Then we have to add plus this being plus being. Then we look for the past participle of that same verb, or use the same verb that is given in the active voice. Then, as usual, you add plus by the subject. Okay, let's look at an example. I believe Abraham is listening to me right there. Now, look at this active voice. Abraham has finished the homework. Abraham has finished the homework. We're using has here because I told you that has is used for a singular subject. Abraham is just one Abraham. All right. So we use has for Abraham because Abraham is just a person. Has finished. Finish is the past participle of finish. Okay. Abraham has finished the homework. Now, how can we change this into passive voice? Remember that we'll use the X rule. First of all, Abraham has finished homework. What did Abraham finish? The homework, isn't it? So the homework is now the subject. It now becomes the subject in the passive voice using our X rule, if you remember. Now the homework. How many homework did Abraham finish? Just only one homework, isn't it? There's no S at the homework. So since it's just one homework, we use what? As. I told you as, since it's not the homework is a subject now and it's just one homework, it means as. Okay? And we had been. Been. Now the being right here is supposed to be Been, not Beening. Abraham has okay, the homework has been finished. So these are verbs to remain this way it is. Has been finished then by who? By Abraham. Abraham has now become the subject, the object rather. So the homework has been finished by Abraham. I hope you're getting this very clearly. Let's use example 2 to buttress what you are saying again. They have eaten all the snacks. They have eaten all the snacks, and I believe all of us like snacks a lot. Now, look at here, we're not using has, we're using have in the active voice because of they. They means more than one person. So use have for more than one subject, okay? They means there are many. So use have. You cannot say they has eaten all the snack. We use they have. Have is used for more than one subject. They have eaten all the snacks. How do we change this now to passive voice? First of all, start with your X rule, then you go to your pronoun rule, then you go to your verb rule. Now, they have eaten all the snacks. The snacks here is the subject. Okay, all the snacks is the subject. So it becomes all the snacks becomes the subject here in the passive voice. Now, all the snacks, look at X in the snacks. Since it's now become the subject, what should we pick? Is it has or have? Is it has or have? We pick. Is it has or have? We pick. So we pick have because this snacks is more than one. So all the snacks have been. So I told you we had been, not this been. This been is wrong. They have all the snacks have been eaten. Now the verb we still use, we still maintain the same verb because this is the past participle. Don't forget, we're using the participle of the verb. You still remain the same. They have eaten. Eating remains eating, doesn't change. So they have all the snacks have been eaten by. Now they becomes what? Them in the pronoun rule. Our they changed to what? To them. So now becomes um they all the snacks have been eaten by them. So all the snacks becomes the subject. We use have because it is more than one snacks. We add been. We maintain our eating, which is the past participle. They always add by, and they becomes what? Them. All right. So if you go to the table, you see that we have the pronoun. So all these are 3 rules you need to follow when you are doing this particular exercise. Let's look at the past tense. Now, past tense are actions that are done in the past. Okay, as completed and done in the past. Now, let's look at the active structure of this. Now, it's made up of a subject, a verb, and the verb must be in the past tense. Take notes. The verb must be in the past tense. For example, the past tense of go is went. All right. Past tense of run is ran. So you must know all your verb tenses very, very well, which we've done earlier. So the active voice is made up of subject, verb in the past tense, and the object. This is what makes up the active structure of this particular one. Then if you are changing from the active to the passive, as usual, your object becomes this. All right. Your object becomes the subject. Now, we either use was or were. Now, was is used for a singular object, while were is used for a plural object. I take it again. Was, if the object is one, we use was. If the object is two or more than one, we use what? Were. Then take notes, as usual, we add our what? Past participle. Take note, all passive voice uses the past participle form of the verb, which is the third form of the verb. The past participle of the verb, that is what we use in the passive voice. Now, as usual, we had by and we put our what? Subject. Let's look at an example on this. Okay, let's look at this example where we have right here. Let me clean this one off. Okay, let's look at the active voice. He broke the window. This is a past tense. Take notes. Look at the verb very well. He broke the window. Broke is a past tense. He has is done already, isn't it? Here the subject is he. Broke is a past tense of the verb. The window is the object. So how do we change this to passive voice? As usual, your X rule must take place. The window, which is the subject, which is the object, becomes the what? The object here. The window. Now, how many window was broken? Just one, isn't it? So use was. So the window was. Now, next thing is to look for the past participle of broke. What is the past participle of broke? It's broken. The window was broken. Then it says you should add what? By the subject. By who? By your he becomes him. If you look at that table very well, your he becomes what? Him. So we have it as the window is broken by him. The window was broken by him. Let's look at example 2. We caught the thieves. We caught the thieves. Active. To change to passive, we caught the thief. The we is the subject, caught is the verb in past tense, the thief is the object. Now, okay. Now, your X rule says that the thief will now becomes the what? The object, the subject rather. The thieves become the us, the objects. Now look at it. The thieves. The thieves. This is a plural form for thief, isn't it? So we have more than one object. So what auxiliary verb should we use? Because these are auxiliary verb. What auxiliary verb should we use? Should we use was or should we use were? So since it's more than one thief, we use what? Were. The thieves were. What is the past tense of caught? Past participle of caught remains what? Caught. Because caught is the past tense for catch. And catch, caught, caught. Catch is present tense, caught is past tense, caught is past participle. So we use caught. Then we always add the what? The by. Then we will change to what? Us, which is your plural, your pronoun. Your we will change to what? Us. If you're convinced about this, go to the table for the pronoun rule and you see it right there. Your we change to what? Us. So we're going to have a sentence as is written as in a passive voice. Now become the thieves were caught by us. Let's look at the next sentence that we have. I broke all the glasswares. This person must be very careless. I broke all the glasswares, which means your cup, your glass plates, your glass cups, and all that. I broke all the glasswares. Now, I is the subject, broke is the past tense, which is the verb. All the glassware is the object that is receiving the broke, isn't it? That the action that is being carried upon. So to change to passive voice, don't forget again your X rule. Your X rule. All the glassware is the subject. So all the glassware will now become the subject right here. So become all the glasswares. Now all the glasswares. Look at it. There's X there. So let's look which of the auxiliary verbs should we take? Is it was or where? Look at the structure here. Which of the auxiliary verbs should you take? Is it was or where? Now we have more than one glassware, so we use what? Where. So all the glasswares were. What is the now we've taken that? What is the past participle of broke? It will become what? Broken, because if you change it down to verb, past tense, and past participle, we have break as a present as a verb. Past tense is what? Broke. While past participle of that is broken. So all the glassware were broken. Always add your by before the subject. Now I will change to what? Me. Your I change to what? Me. You can check the table for the plural rule. So your I change to what? To me. So we have a fantastic sentence which says all the glasswares were broken by me. So not by I. I will change to what? To me. All the glasses were broken by me. Let's look at the third example. What if your active voice is a question? Like, for example, did he buy a car? Did he buy a car? How do we change a question, a active voice question, to a passive voice? A question in the active form, how do we change it to a passive voice? Because if you look at this particular sentence, did he buy a car? It's not starting with the subject. It's even starting with an auxiliary verb. Did he buy a car? Now, how do we change this to passive voice? Now, did he buy a car? Now, to change this, first of all, we're going to start, since it's starting with a auxiliary verb. Auxiliary verb is did. Okay, did he buy a car? How do we change this? So we're also going to start our sentence, our passive voice with what? An auxiliary verb. Now let's look at the noun that is here. The he is a subject, while a car is the what? Object. So take note, our car will come, but before the car comes first, since this sentence is starting with a auxiliary verb, now a car is just one car. So what auxiliary verb should we use right here? Is it was or where? Are we using was or where? Since it's a car, we use what? Was. So become was a car. Now, was a car. Take note, was a car. Since it's a car, we use was. If it's more than one car, we use where. Was a car, just a car. Now, the next thing is to look at our verb. Our verb is buy. Now we have we have the verb as buy. The past tense is bought. The past participle is what? Is bought. So become was a car bought by. Now our e you change to what? Him. If you remember our pronoun rule, e becomes what? Him. E becomes him. E becomes him. So we're going to have a beautiful sentence like this that says, was a car bought by him, not by e. Your e change to him. Don't put e, you change to him. Was a car bought by him? That is a passive voice for this particular active voice in question form. All right, let's move on to the next one. Let's look at the past continuous tense. This is an action that is ongoing in the past up till in the present. And since you say it's a past continuous tense, you see the word continuous, which means your verb will have the ing. Let's look at the structure for this. For the active structure, we have the subject, we have the was, we have the where. Was and where are past tense for auxiliary. Okay, they're past tense for auxiliary. Auxiliary for the past tense for the word auxiliary verb is. Past tense of is what? Was. And past tense for where is are. So if it's a singular person, we use was. If it's a plural, we use what? Are. So let's look at it. So the structure is the subject plus was or where. Take you if it was for a single subject, if it's where, it's for a plural subject. Then since it's continuous, we use the verb with what? With an ing. The verb tense with an ing, then plus the object. That is the structure for the active voice. Now to change it now to the passive voice, as usual, we have our X sign, our S rule. The object comes. Now we have was or where. This depends on the kind of objects you have. If it's more than one object, you use where. If it's a singular object, we use was. Then we had been. Been means something that is continuing. Continuing because it's a continuous tense. So we use the word been. Then plus the past participle of the verb that is given. Then plus by the subject. Okay, plus by the subject. Let's look at some example. She was baking a cake. She was baking a cake. She is the subject, was live verb, baking. And this is done in the past, up to in the present. She was baking a cake. And the cake here is a object and she is a what? subject. So to change the passive voice, as usual, our X rule comes in place. A cake becomes the subject. A cake becomes the subject. Now it's supposed to be was, not is. A cake, a cake. If it's a cake, we use is. If it's more than a cake, we use what, where. So a cake was. Sorry about that. A cake was. Let me see if I can write that very well. A cake was being baked by her. A cake was being baked by her. Not is, sorry. Because a cake, right? Don't forget that it's a cake, so we use was. So a cake was being baked by her. Past participle of bake, of baking, of bake, which is the main verb, is what? Baked. We have bake, baked, bake. So was being baked by her. By now, you should know that she will change to what? To her. Not that a cake was being baked by she. It's not going to sound grammatically correct. So a cake was being baked by her. Let's look at the second example. They were destroying the chairs. They were destroying the chairs. So we see they at the subject, where I told you is a auxiliary verb used for if the object is more than one, we use this. We are destroying the chairs. So how do you change to passive voice? And the chairs is being destroyed, isn't it? So we start chairs, the chairs. Now look at the chairs. The chairs is more than one, isn't it? So we have put the object first. Object comes first. What's the next thing? Was or where? Now since it's more than one chair, we use what? We use where. We use where. Okay, we use where. We use the where. Now the chairs were. Then we say we should add our been, isn't it? Been. Now what is the past participle of destroy? We have destroy, destroyed, destroyed. Destroy is a verb. Past tense is destroyed. Past participle is the same thing as destroyed. So the chair was being destroyed by them. So they becomes them. Always put your by before them. By them. Let's look at the next example. Was she washing a shirt? And this is a question from the active side. Was she washing a shirt? So how do we change this to uh, a passive voice? Now take note, it's starting with an auxiliary verb. So we will maintain the auxiliary verb there. So become a shirt is the object, isn't it? So instead of putting she, we put a shirt. So the she will be replaced with a what? A shirt, which is the X form. Was a shirt. Then we put our being washed. Now washing is from the verb wash. Past tense of wash is washed. Past participle of wash is washed. So was a shirt being washed by her? Take note, she becomes what? Her. Was a shirt being washed by her? So that's the passive voice for this. Let's look at the past perfect tense for this. So look at the structure. We have the subject plus add plus past participle plus object. That is for the active voice. To change to the passive voice, it becomes object. Then we put had been. Had been. Then past participle still remain the same. Then by subject. Let's look at example. They had won the match. This is done already. They had won the match. So they is the subject. The match. Oh, sorry. They had won the competition. Sorry about that. They had won the competition. So the competition is now the object. So in the passive voice, it becomes the competition. All right. The competition. What else are we going to add? Say we should add had been, isn't it? Had been. So the competition had been. What is the this verb will remain the same because one is one, which is the past participle of win. Take notes, the passive always use the past participle, no matter what it is. So the competition had been won by now you should know that they will become what? Them. Okay, by them. Example 2, he had bought a car. So a car becomes the subject. You put your had been, then your past participle of bought. of buy, which is but, buy, then he becomes what? Him, according to the pronoun rule. Number three, had they won the competition? This is a question. Had they won the competition? So we're going to change this into a passive voice. Now, since it's starting with the auxiliary verb had, we maintain your had, maintain the had, but this time around, the competition had they will be replaced with what? The competition. Then we had our what? Been. Past participle of win is won. Then by them, they becomes them. So had they won the competition becomes had the competition be won by them. Okay. All right. Let's look at the last or second to last phase. Future simple tense. Now, future simple tense simply means um an action that should be done in the future. So when you want to write an action that is to be done in the future, okay, we use the word will because it's not yet done. So, for example, I will go to church on Sunday. It's not yet on Sunday, but we're talking about what you do in the future. So we use the word will. So let's look at the active structure of a sentence in the active voice. Let's see how we can break down its structure down. So first of all, we have the subject as usual. Then we have the auxiliary verb or modal verb, which is will. Then we have the verb, which is in the present tense. Then we have the what? Object. So change this to passive voice to become object, and the verb there will become will be, and the verb, which is the auxiliary verb, become will be, and the verb will change to what? Past participle as usual. Then we had our by subject. For example, let's look at this example. She will write a letter. She will write a letter. So a letter becomes the subject. You add your will be. What is the past participle of write? Becomes written, and she becomes what? Her. So become a letter will be written by her. Let's look at example 2. Example 2 says that um will he study this book? This is a question. Will he study this book? Now it's starting with your modal verb, which is will. So become will, instead of he, this book is the object. Now become will this book be studied? It's supposed to be studied because the patterns of study, we have studied, studied. Will will this book be studied by him? Supposed to be studied, not study. Supposed to be SU. Let me see if I can write this very well. Um, X. Let's see if I can write this very well. It's supposed to be STU. Okay, my pen is not writing. Okay, supposed to be STU. Um, let me see. Supposed to be STU studied, which is STUIED. STUIED. Studied. STUDIED. I hope I'm correct about that. Studied. It's supposed to be studied. Okay, not study. So will this book be studied by him? Look at the next example we have there. They will start a business. Now, a business will be started by them. That is a passive voice. A business will be started by them. Let's look at the future perfect. I believe that it should be the end of this class. Future perfect. So we have the subjects. We'll have past participle and the objects. So the change to the passive become objects will have been past participle. Then we have the subject. Okay. So let's look at an example. Let me change my pen color. She will have cleaned the room. She will have cleaned the room. So she will have cleaned the room. How do we change to the passive voice? Looking at the structure, the object becomes the room. will have been. So put will have been. What the past participle of clean, which is same thing as clean, by her. She become her. By now you should know that already. Example 2. Will he have received the letter? This is the question. Will he have received the letter? The passive voice still remains will. Now instead of he becomes, the letter becomes the subject. Will the letter have been? Don't need to put will again because will is already here again. Letter will have been. Past tense of received is still received by him. So we have will later have been received by him. So that is the passive voice for that particular question. All right, I know the video is a bit long, but just for us to get a full understanding of this, I believe if you have any question, you can ask me questions. And here are some lessons and some exercise you can do. Here is the first exercise. Then here is also the second exercise you can do for just for you to practice. So practice makes perfect. So you can pause video, send questions, and send your comments, which part you don't understand. And I'm very, very happy and glad to explain further. So we'll see you on Friday. God bless you and stay blessed. And also we have more of this also with us. We can also add this to our exercises since we are going for the weekend. The reason I'm giving you more of this is that you go through the sentences in this particular one and change them from passive to active. So this is the other way around. So just practice, okay? Practice makes you better. All right. God bless you. See you next time. I remember Mr. Francis. Bye bye.